Welcome to Popular Speed Report. I'm Chase Wilhelm with Popular Speed's Matt Weaver and Kelly Crandall. Just finished up the Sprint Cup Series race here at Atlanta Motor Speedway, and Kyle Busch takes the victory, but he didn't have the best car all night.
No, in a place like this, you really don't have to. Kyle Busch and victory lane, M&M's for everyone. You don't have to have the best car. Tires were a game here. Jeff Gordon had a stout car early. Carl Edwards, you didn't want to have the best car. It seemed like if you were up front, you were kind of risking yourself to have issues. And so Kyle Busch had a few great late restarts. He gets, the momentum, wins the race.
Kelly, what did you think about the race?
Fantastic. All the talk coming in was the tires. I think the tires did great. We had great racing throughout the field. We had many different leaders. I think there was 13 different leaders, 28 lead changes. So great for Atlanta. Many different drivers took their turns at the front. We thought Boyer was in control. Carl Edwards was in control. Martin Truex came up strong, even with a broken wrist, which is pretty impressive. And Joey Logano probably had the best car and came up short. So Kyle got it done when it mattered.
Question for both of you guys: do you think we can contribute this, how well of a race it was to the new zone tire?
I think if you're looking at last year's race to this year's race, you certainly see a bit of an improvement. I want to see the tire at some of these other tracks moving forward, but as a track where tires do matter, to where the fall off is real, this track surface is so abrasive. You certainly had great racing. You had great racing up front. You had great racing in the middle of the pack. And, if this is just one test, I give it an A.
Sure, let's go with that. If it works, if it's going to produce racing like this, then we'll chalk it up to Goodyear.
Now, what everybody cares about. Next weekend we'll be at Richmond. Lots of chase implications. Let's talk a little Jeff Gordon and Kurt Busch.
Well, Jeff Gordon finishes sixth. Kurt Busch finishes third. So heading into Richmond, you've got 6 points differential. Kurt Busch is 10th place in the standings. Jeff Gordon is 11th place in the standings. And so this, for Gordon, this is the exact same scenario he looked at last year going into Richmond. He entered that race 14 or 15 points behind Kyle Busch. This time it's 6 points behind brother Kurt, and he's got to get it done. Kurt, he's in. He's in with one race remaining, and so he can play a little bit more conservative. Both drivers are good at Richmond. It's one of their favorites, and it's going to be a wild duel between the two of them to see who makes the 10-race playoff.
And Kelly, I think Brad Keselowski with a bad night tonight, with all the engine problems that he had, and he left the race early, I think he's all but done in the chase this season.
I feel like he's been done for a couple weeks. Tonight might have just been the nail in the coffin. He ran so strong, had a car capable probably of finishing the top 10, if not top 5. And then story of the season, it just something took it away, and that's why he's in this position. So he's all but done. He's going to need a miracle.
Can he win at Richmond?
Can he? I don't know. I mean, you look at how he's performed this season. He's been capable of winning, but he hasn't shown, and the team something has always happened late in the race to take it all away. Can he? Yes. Will I think he come close or be in contention? I'm just not sure.
We've seen a few guys come in this final race at Richmond to make the chase. The first year, Jeremy Mayfield comes to mind. So can Brad do it? Certainly will he.
And Kurt's had to do it in the past,
yes.
And he's done it. So, and the thing about Kurt is he's in, but he's been in the last couple weeks, and he's always fallen out. Can he stay there now at the most important time?
Russian roulette.
And what makes it so exciting is you have 3 champions in this whole deal going to the last race in Richmond. We'll see what happens next weekend. One final point I want to bring up: we had a little feud tonight between a couple of veterans, Jeff Gordon and Carl Edwards. Let's talk about that a little bit.
Well, there were 2 separate incidents. Around lap 20, Jeff Gordon and Carl Edwards had a little bit of a dust-up. Jeff Gordon did a slide job in front of Carl, and Carl had to lift pretty heavily not to run into the back of Jeff. And then around lap 200, 201, the two of them fighting for the lead again. Gordon gets a run on the outside and just couldn't clear him. Carl kind of pinched him a little bit. Jeff kind of pinched Carl back, and they're both kind of blaming each other. We both saw because we were there.
Yeah, we were both in the garage area. It was, I wouldn't say it was heated, but they did have a conversation. Jeff Gordon and Carl
waved Carl over.
Yes, Jeff and Carl. Carl actually came up to Jeff, and then they had a little discussion. And talking to Jeff after he got out of his hauler to go to the motor coach, he didn't seem all too happy with what Carl had to say.
No, he didn't. And Carl, we actually caught up with Carl before catching up again with Jeff, and Carl says the issue there was that neither side wanted to take full blame for it. Carl tried to explain what he saw, what happened, and Jeff says, well, what did you do? And Carl says, well, you did this, you did that. And the two of them couldn't agree on whose fault it was. And so then talking to Jeff, heading towards the motorhome lots, Jeff says he just wanted Carl to, take some of the blame for what happened on, the second bit there in lap 201. And you saw, you had a better view than I did. The two of them went into the motor coach lot. Carl chased Jeff down, shook his hand. They exchanged a few more words, shook hands again. And so heading into Richmond, we're a place where temperatures and emotions can boil over. It looks like this isn't going to be an issue, but put in the back of the mind.
Well, I'll have to see at Richmond. It's going to be one exciting race next weekend. For Popular Speed Report, I'm Chase Wilhelm with Matt Weaver and Kelly Crandall. Have a good night.